to Mobile, Gulf Coast, and I never pass up an opportunity to go back home and spend some time on the beach. I love beaches. Beaches are my jam.
Cool.
That's awesome. You go by the Speedway while you're down there?
I lost you for a second.
Did you go down to the Speedway while you're down there?
No, I passed the exit, but that's actually 2 exits after the Speedway.
I gotcha. Okay. There we go. All right. Well, Rusty has figured out how to...
We got Weaver audio. We got the guests audio.
I know. It's
one step at a time, y'all.
It's
one
a
step
mess.
at a time. Look at time it is. It's 8:55. We've been rolling.
Yeah.
For like a minute.
Let's see. Okay. Well, let's see. Let me go on here and...
Matt, they gave me, or well, I should say me because it's my fault. They gave us a pretty significant round of poop for being so late to the Orange Cone episode a couple weeks ago. I was like 30 minutes late. So it was probably appropriate.
I'm sure he let you know it, too.
Well, you know what? He wasn't as salty as he could have been.
Yeah.
I was tweeting him ahead of time to let him know that there was going to be a delay, so that may have softened the blow.
Yeah, brought that down a little bit. A record we're working on it. Yeah. I hear you guys. All right, let's see. 8:55. We're about ready to start. Let me do a little sound check here. And Rusty, Sherwin.
Sherwin.
Mr. Weaver.
Hey.
Yeah. That'll work. Let me just hear that part right quick.
Hey.
Yep. That worked perfect. All right. So
Actually, you guys caught me off guard a little bit. I had you on speakerphone because I was trying to tweet out the link to the show. So I'm back now on.
Oh, well, you're better than me.
usual
I haven't
channel.
even done that yet.
what a good sport, though. Love it. So let's see. We got folks watching. Everybody's on. Hey, Ashley. We got Marianne and let's see, Mr. Southern Wit. What's happening, buddy? Jeffrey's been telling us about our audio issues, helping us out. Wit. That's right. Let's see. Okay. Well, I would run through the show notes with you, Weaver, but it's it's a normal thing. You know how it is. So I think we're about ready to go. Sherwin, were you ready?
I don't see any reason why we can't start now.
Okay. Weaver?
Let's rock.
Oh, let's do this. All right.
We're starting early.
We're starting early. Let's do this. Here goes audio recording now and video now. The PETM podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PETM and join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get your free koozie. Best part is every cent in 2017, we're donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PETM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. Now, this week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up per month level. That's Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Jeffrey Whitler, Mark Wiley, Craig Smulders, Rick Hamacher, Lori Sutton, Mick Rose, Tony Salt, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marion Levesque, Patrick Cleary, and Jeff Brown. Holy crap, Sherwin. Let's do this.
That list is growing.
Woo! Maybe that whole official sponsorship thing was cheap for folks, but, good on them. Hey, welcome, y'all! That's right. This is a Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 99 for Tuesday, May 9th. 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm joining the PETM podcast studio with pregame engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Let the record show I was early, and we started the show early.
It is.
I want a cookie for that.
There might be like some Oreos downstairs. I can grab you.
All right, that'll do.
Yep. The mint Oreos. They're encroaching heavily on the Girl Scout mint things.
Well, I got to stop you right there.
Uh-huh.
So I was home a couple of weeks ago to hang out with my parents and my uncle.
Yeah.
My dad says, "Come on over here, check this mint plant out." He goes, "Crumple up one of those leaves and smell it." Mm-hmm. It's a chocolate mint plant.
A plant. They're
growing
Girl Scout.
It smells
cookies.
like Thin Mints.
They're growing Girl Scout cookies out there in middle Georgia. I don't know what the hell's going on. Before we get too far down that line, we got a guest tonight, dude. Tonight's guest, Associate Motorsports Editor for Auto Week USA and Auto Week Racing, founder of Short Track Scene, and a regular co-host of the PETM podcast. Welcome, y'all. Matt Weaver. What's up, dude?
So you're telling me that Georgia went from being the moonshine capital of the country, the founding bed of NASCAR, to now it's growing Girl Scout cookies.
Growing them right out of the ground, too.
Well, I don't know that it was necessarily developed in Georgia. I just know that in my dad's kitchen there's a potted plant that when you crumple the leaf of it smells like a damn Thin Mint.
So he's got a science experiment going on like the moonshiners did.
Evidently.
Oh, that's funny. Weaver, what's been going on, man? How's the job going? You've been like traveling in planes and staying in hotels and stuff. How's that?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a new life for me. It's a lot of fun because you guys have heard all of my stories. You guys know some of the crazy things I used to do to be able to get to races, and now I'm almost bored. Being able to fly across the country. I'm flying to Italy next month for World Rally Championship, staying in hotels. But no, I can't complain. It's a good life. I love following races, and every now and then I still like to go to the campgrounds and hang out with guys like you. So it's been a good year so far.
Man, that sounds really cool. Before we go too far down that road, though, you always bring something crazy. So what you drinking today, Mr. Weaver?
Actually, okay, so I got to warn you guys in advance. At some point during the show, I'm going to sound a little bit distracted. I'm driving down the road, but right now I've got a killer craving. And my killer craving is a part of what I'm going to be drinking because, like, once a week I stop by this one gas station when I'm home in Mobile, where I'm at right now. I stopped by Mobile after Talladega. I got to stop by this one gas station called the Purple Cow, and I've got to get this drink cake combination. I've got to get a Starbucks bottled Frappuccino with a Cosmic Brownie, 50-cent cheap brownie. Together, they are amazing.
Now, do you take a drink and take a bite? Is that the whole deal, or is it like one after the other? What's the story?
Oh, yeah. You basically trade back and forth. And look, I totally acknowledge I'm having like a white girl moment here. I take a bite out of my little cheap brownie, swallow it down with the Frappuccino drink, rinse, lather, and repeat.
Sounds like a plan. Sherwin, what are we drinking on today?
Well, I'm fixing to get into, along the same lines of weirdness, fixing to get into a Terrapin Beer Company out of Athens, Georgia, W&B Coffee Oatmeal Imperial Stout.
So I think
that's like a brownie and a coffee mixed in a beer can.
You wanted a cookie earlier, and
I got one right now.
I'm pretty sure that's
I'm
a
pretty
cookie.
Sure I already got my cookie.
And I've got something else you brought here. Speaking of local breweries, Jekyll, we've talked about them on the show. The Hootin' and Hollerin' Double IPA. That's going to be interesting. I might get me
Hootin' and Hollerin' is how we start the show, so it felt like it fit.
Right. So Matt, you just said something about Italy. What the hell is that? What's going on, man?
Well, things have kind of changed in my life a little bit, like I've said. I'm no longer just a NASCAR guy. I'm no longer just a short track guy. Heck, I'm not even just an IndyCar guy anymore. I'm a, what's my official title again? The Associate Motorsports Editor, which means that they're going to send me all across the globe chasing things that I've never even heard of before, but I'm looking forward to it. So I've heard of World Rally, but I'm going to go down to Italy, Sardinia, the island off the coast of mainland Italy, for World Rally Championship next month, which is really cool for me because actually I've never been out of the country. I just now applied for the passport, had to get it expedited.
Yep, the expedited
came
passport.
Up a little bit late.
Been there, done that.
I'm going to see a different kind of racing. I feel like I've seen a lot of kind of racing over the course of my life, but never World Rally Championship, much less internationally. So this is going to be way cool.
Well, world sounds pretty damn important.
Yeah.
You put world in front of an event and you host it in Italy.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty exciting.
I'm very partial to rally racing. And it's a crying shame you can't find it here in the States. I used to watch they'd have the hour-long kind of recap show or something, and I'm talking about glued to my TV watching guys. I have no idea who they are or anything, but them going along these mountain passes with 1,000-foot drops on one side at breakneck speed on half-a-lane dirt roads is nuts. That's the kind of stuff that I feel like NASCAR drivers going 200 miles an hour around Talladega an inch from each other go, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that always stands out to me watching international rally racing is that I can't understand a word any of these drivers are saying. I am I am not bilingual. I guess I am singularly. I have no idea what the word is for one language.
Monolingual.
But I only speak one language. But the thing that always stands out to me is there is one universal word. They drop the F-bomb. That is one word that everyone knows, and it's because they nearly just took a 1,000-foot drop off said mountain. So it's always refreshing to me that, the racing is different, the languages are different, but one word is universal, and it's pretty much the same word for racers crashing all across the world.
It's the same word verbally as it is in sign language too. That's another thing that's so interesting. The middle finger hits everywhere. You can't find a place the middle finger doesn't hit.
I'm always impressed too with how calm the guys are. They show them like in the car, and there's the navigator guy sitting, right seat, and he's going, there's a 40-degree turn in 100 yards, and they back it out, and the dude is just on tilt. Again, on the side of this mountain or whatever, going 80 miles an hour in this tiny little Honda thing. And really, I don't know, really crazy the difference in how I'd love to see their heart rates and stuff, because that guy feels like he's got maybe like a 60 heart rate going on.
Oh, yeah, the navigator dude is chill as the other side of the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I want to ask you, Weaver, and you may know this now, so I've watched enough in-car camera on rally racing. I don't think I nearly got into it the way Rusty did, but I got into it enough to pay attention to what was happening inside the car. And recently, Scott Speed was tweeting video and pictures of the inside of his car, and a second right-hand handle has appeared. Where it used to be, I think it was a brake to snatch the rear end out. There's another one in there. What does that other handle do?
My best guess, and this is completely uneducated, have you guys ever watched the old Herbie movies, the originals, not Lindsay Lohan?
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about Dean Douglas. I'm talking about The Love Bug, 1969. There was the scene in the original The Love Bug where Herbie gets split into two, and he wins the race with like one half of the car and finishes third with the other half of the car. I'm convinced that the new handle that has appeared in these cars is the split in half option if you need to win a race in an unorthodox fashion. But again, I'm no expert in rally racing.
Well, it's a better answer than I got.
Good enough.
That's
it's certainly interesting.
I love it. The one thing, Weaver, that we got asked about all over the place to ask you, and Frank Villette, I think, was the first one on there. How's Mr. Gotinks doing?
Yeah, he had a bit of a scare. God, it feels like ages ago, but really it was only about a month and a half ago. Time is just, it's funny. But no, he's good. He had basically a urinary tract infection, and he got to the point where he didn't want to use the litter box. And after 2 days of it, it finally became apparent that he needed to go see a vet. You know how some pet owners are, and I feel guilty for this. But you're like, well, this is just a passing thing. He just feels sick, and you keep looking for reasons to go to the vet until it's almost too late. And, they said that they pushed it close, and I feel guilty. You guys all know I adore my cat. My cat is like my one constant over my life in the past 5 years, and there were some really emotional moments there because I really felt bad for, what I had basically done by waiting so late. But to an emergency clinic. What happened was he got sick late on Thursday night, and I waited it out Friday to see if he would get better. And then finally we woke up on Saturday morning, and he hadn't gotten better. And so it's like, what do you do now? Because it's the weekend. And so we had to get him down to an emergency clinic, and fortunately they were able to take care of him. But yeah, after like a week and a half or so of taking his medicine and just being able to go through that whole process, I feel like he's back to 100%, which is, a huge relief for me because I got a lot of great friends in my life. I got good people around me, but I don't think there's any shame in admitting that, your pet, if you're lucky enough to have had a pet for multiple years, that's like pretty much best friend territory. And I love my cat, and I'm glad he's still here, and hopefully will be here for years to come. Fantastic to hear. So
yeah, that's great. And we have a little bit of a silly follow-up question to that from Frank. So is Gotinks dating Sydney Lett yet?
I haven't gossiped with him lately. Getting back on the road this past weekend, the quick turnaround to Indianapolis, which is where I'm driving now. I haven't had the chance to sit down and have a heart-to-heart, but he's actually with me. We're going to Indianapolis together, so I'm sure over the next 9 hours we're going to have lots of time to gossip about our respective love lives, and both of ours are pretty interesting from what I understand.
Well, that's good to hear.
Oh, excellent. So,
So, Frank, there's your answer.
Yeah, Frank, there you go.
Sounds like if you were trying to get in the running there, you're out.
True.
Although I think Frank is happily married. So.
Episode number 99, Sherwin. You know what that means. Next week is 100. We've already pretty much got the commitment.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. It is 99. The driver of the 99 car, I mean, when we had Jeffrey Whitler on, and he threw down Carl Edwards' stats, I mean, he just started throwing them out there, giving it to us. So I feel like we almost have to throw back to that if you really want to hear.
He's not just a fan.
Not just a fan, a super fan of Carl Edwards and everything. 373 races, 23 wins, 108 top fives. A third of the time he raced, he was in the top five. 4,850 laps led. Holy crap. That's like 10
They sound like good numbers to me.
Pretty damn good, man. But let's not forget. So there's a bunch of other winners. Like all the win deficits that we've had over the last several weeks. Like, I mean, we're talking in a few months at this point. We're making them all back up in the number 99. Don't forget, Jeff Burton drove 293 races with 17 wins in the 99 car.
Well, the old brain calculator is firing off some smoke, but I see the numbers.
Yep.
And I'm seeing something very similar to Carl's performance.
It's not too far
off. It's basically
the
same.
If you extrapolate that 293 out of 373, that's pretty crazy. Weaver, have you thought about that before? The Jeff Burton versus Carl Edwards? Like, I mean, those are pretty impressive stats.
Yeah, I have actually. It's funny you guys bring this up because I haven't heard someone else talk about this. But me and my old buddy Chris Owens, my former roommate, were talking about Carl's career, and we were talking about the Hall of Fame because that's the conversation that always comes up, of course, and comparable drivers. And I made the argument that he's very much Jeff Burton 2.0, and I believe that Jeff Burton is a Hall of Famer. Even without a Daytona win, even without a championship, to me it's about the fame element. It's not the Hall of Champions and great winners. It's about the Hall of Fame. Did you contribute to the sport in a way that advanced its growth? And I think both of them did so. But to further draw a comparison, I think they were both plagued by being really dominant drivers in someone else's era. I felt like Jeff Burton was bit so hard by racing in the same era as Jeff Gordon and the Rainbow Warriors in the 2014 and what they were able to do. Because if you look at his numbers in that kind of 96 to 2000 period, he was doing things that would net him championships in any other era. And, Carl Edwards is the same way. Carl Edwards was at his best putting up championship caliber numbers during the Jimmy Johnson championship buzzsaw era. And I think that comparison holds merit. They're very similar because the numbers are the same, their contributions to the sport overall are the same, and they were both bit by that someone else's era bug.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about fame and contribution to the sport. I mean, Jeff Burton, look at his post-racing career too, and adding to NASCAR. So all the things he's done with broadcasts and everything else.
Yeah,
too,
if we talk about the driving career as being like the death of the driver, and that's a little bit more, but just say it, the posthumous driving career, getting into the booth, doing what he's doing with NBC, I think Jeff's in there eventually.
Yeah.
If not just as a driver. So the question then becomes, if we never see Carl again, will the next time we see him again be when he's giving his speech?
I feel like that's like asking if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow.
I think you're right, too.
We're seeing Carl again. I don't know if he's going to be in a race car. I don't know but we're seeing Carl again. Weaver, what do you think? We seeing Carl again?
I've said for a while that my gut just told me that it just didn't seem right, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what's going on in his career and his life, but it just seemed so strange because, he left Homestead talking about how he and the team was going to come back in 2017 and be, better than they were the year before when they nearly won the championship. And, everything just felt so sudden. And, I just feel like in my gut there's still something to do in his career, and it's just a matter of, his situation lining up and playing itself out. I don't think we've seen the last of Carl as a driver, really. But if we have, I still think you're going to see Carl return in some other capacity. I think it's not unexpected to see him remain with the Toyota family and contribute to their overall organization in other ways. We saw it a couple of days ago doing the salt flat runs affiliated with Toyota there. So I still think there's a lot to talk about in terms of Carl and what his overall body of work looks like for sure.
Absolutely. So, Sherwin, we've got a few other winners. I'm just going to roll through them here. Paul Goldsmith, 3 wins. Shorty Rollins, 1 win. Chris Turner, 1 win. Charlie Glotzback, and this is another one, and he's got 2 wins. And I got to go back, and my NASCAR history buff guy wants to go back. I got to see what all this is.
Say what?
But I thought one of the most interesting ones, Richard Brickhouse, 2 races in the 99 car and 1 win. That 1 win that Richard Brickhouse had was the inaugural Talladega 500 in 1969. You remember what happened in Talladega?
Oh, the tire controversy.
The tire controversy.
Richard Petty led the boycott.
Yeah. So the big boycott from all the stars of the era, and it's so funny that I would have never in a million years been able to tell you who won that race, but it was Richard Brickhouse. That was his 1 win in the NASCAR Premier Touring Cup Series. And now, if you recognize that last name, his nephew Jeremy is a longtime spotter for Kurt Busch. So there's kind of full circle to today. How about that?
That is neat.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to regurgitate something really quick from another podcast I listened to this week. Nate Ryan did with Kyle Petty. They were talking about Kyle Petty's charity run, which is awesome. Always want to throw some attention towards that. But Kyle was talking about how grandfather Lee once protested a win against Richard when they were racing father versus son, because if Lee had won the race based on the sponsor bonuses, the company, Richard Petty Enterprises, was going to make more money. And he talked about how Lee was so much more concerned with the paycheck than he was the trophy. And then on the flip side, how much more concerned with the trophy Richard was than the paycheck.
Yeah.
So y'all go listen to Nate Ryan's podcast on NBC. There's some great stuff from Kyle Petty, as always.
Yeah. Weaver, have you ever, covered or written about that inaugural Talladega 500?
I've written a little bit about it, but actually I want to go back to the story about Lee and Richard because this is not the first time I've heard that story. If you guys want to hear a very detailed, very fun version of that story, you guys have to have Gordon Perkle on the show at some point. Gordon Perkle.
You mean again?
Who? What's that?
I said, you mean again? We had Gordon back in February.
Yeah.
Great. I missed that one. So you got to ask Gordon about this because Gordon tells a very, very bombastic version of the story. He was the first one that told me when I went down to the Georgia Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and he was kind of walking us through it and just telling us different Georgia track racing stories. And this whole deal happened in Georgia. And it's one of my favorite stories in racing because Lee was the consummate businessman, and he was always about the organization first, even if it meant having to take something away from Richard. Plus, in Lee's mind, according to Gordon, he wanted to kind of teach Richard a lesson that it's not going to come easy, and you should never take this for granted. And it's just a very fascinating insight into the Petty family as a whole.
So does that happen at Lanier?
No, it wasn't Lanier. I forget the name of the track now, which is totally defunct. It's totally gone. But it is one of the many Georgia tracks that have faded into obscurity.
Sure. Well, you've now just given us a legit reason to hook back up with the Dawson Pool Room folks and head on back up to Dawsonville and record another 25 minutes with Mr. Gordon Perkle.
from Sherwin's house.
I could listen.
Yeah,
I
go
could
ahead.
listen to Gordon talk for hours. He's one of my favorite gentlemen in racing, and if you guys do talk to him before I do, definitely send my regards because I love that man to death.
Absolutely. So we drove up. It's only maybe 45 minutes from Sherwin's house to
what did
get
the
to the
people say?
Dawsonville.
You saw people that were watching us live.
Uh-huh.
And we did record that one,
Yep.
so it exists on YouTube. Rusty and I were sitting across from him. We're in the back room of the Dawson pool room.
Bugs flying in and out of her mouth.
But yeah, we're just staring open mouthed, listening to this guy talk like it is the coolest thing that we have ever experienced.
Yeah, first
and
off,
it really, as a podcast, it may have been. I don't know in terms of the history of NASCAR and like getting access to someone with that much knowledge of what was going on. The story he tells. Yeah, I mean, Weaver, you got to listen to the first 20 minutes of, and I'll send you the link. But he talks about basically the history of the siren.
Yep.
And it's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you've heard the story before.
But he's got
for sure. And to me, the great thing about Gordon, and I feel like we can certainly appreciate it because we've talked to him and we've experienced him, as it were. I don't think, certainly, the average NASCAR fan doesn't really know about Gordon and his contributions to the sport. But I think plenty of diehard fans, unless you're just in that Georgia racing culture, you probably haven't heard of Gordon Perkle, too. But I think he is one of the most notable historians, one of the most notable racing enthusiasts that many hardcore racing fans and hardcore NASCAR fans haven't heard of, and that's truly a shame.
The more that you hear him talk, the more you realize the wealth of his stories and knowledge is so much more vast than you can even comprehend. It's insane. So Sherwin definitely.
And I think we
got to get
figured
back
out,
there soon.
Yeah, we figured out
So
we didn't put quite enough detail in our show notes because he kind of started bouncing around between different sort of stories. If we had a little bit more tactical approach to our questions, we probably would have distracted him a little bit less. So I think we'll know better going next time.
It was fantastic.
I mean, it was so awesome to be there and for him to just offer up his time. I mean, it was literally a couple of tweets and we were up there.
And you said it, Weaver. He, I mean, the Southern gentleman style too. He shows up to his, to the hamburger joint. He's got a sport coat on. He's got his nice pants on. Probably been creased that morning. And he shows up and he goes, okay, I'm here to talk to some folks, and we're in there in our NASCAR gear because we're having fun and stuff, but and trying to be respectful. You're just like, man, this guy is all that is cool.
He's all class, and I'll tell you guys what, if y'all put that together, I'll make the drive down from Charlotte if I'm in town, if I can coordinate that. And I would love to do that with y'all because I think it's a lot of fun. I always learn something new. And to be a part of something that cool with you guys and Gordon, that would be kind of a dream come true a little bit. No lie.
Yes, that would be.
Well, why don't we just go ahead and say that's what it's going to be?
Yep. We're just gonna. Yep. Sherwin's on this. We'll mark the dates on the calendar.
Yeah, I'm the
and
logistics / marketing.
Right.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
In the meantime, we had a whole race this last weekend. Let's talk about that.
I think we did.
There's that thing going on. We're tearing it down, y'all.
Is this a NASCAR podcast?
Maybe so. We're just all like high fiving here on the internet, high fives to each other, tearing it down. Talladega. I mean, Sherwin, you wrote it here. General, it was pretty positive vibe coming out of Dega. A lot to be said about Roush. A lot to be said about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. What's your takeaways, Weaver?
I thought it was an awesome race. I mean, look, I'm not always the biggest enthusiast of plate racing. Look, I love the close competition. I love the element of surprise that often takes place. But the big one always worries me. It always infuriates me. And we had one. We had a big 18-car crash, and it felt like it was inevitable. But I'll tell you what, the entire build-up to the big one and then everything after the big one, it was just a fun race. I think stage racing, just like it did with the Daytona, greatly enhanced the first Talladega race. To me, I think this also is kind of a continuation of what's been a really good season on-track competition-wise for the Cup Series. Lots of parity. I mean, a lot of different winners, a lot of different teams winning. Through this all, JGR hasn't even won yet. And so you have the possibility for 4 more guys to probably win before the season's over. And the on-track stuff is good. Stages have been good. Everyone walked away from their crashes safe at Talladega. I had a good time, and I can't always say that when I leave Talladega.
So, shout out here to Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick, who sent us the question. He even used the word parody there. What do you think's the main reason for all that parody? I mean, 7 different or 8th different winner in 10 races there. Why do you think that's happening?
Well, the 2 things that stand out to me are kind of the 2 surprise winners, and that would be Ryan Newman and Ricky Stenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
We know that RCR as an organization is capable of winning races. They just need kind of the right circumstances to play itself out, because I don't think right now where they are in their development cycle, they're going to, outpace the likes of Hendrick Motorsports, JGR, Team Penske. But Newman was able to have a track like Phoenix, which has one primary groove, and was able to hold the rest of the contenders off on a late race restart on tire strategy. So he was able to kind of steal one a little bit. And now you've got Roush Fenway, which it's been well documented where they have been over the past 5 years. I didn't think they were capable of winning a race this year. I think they could be a top 10 team more often than not, especially that 17 car led by Brian Patty and Ricky Stenhouse, a 2-time Xfinity champion. But they kind of stole one a little bit at Talladega. They won the pole, so this is by no means a fluke. People want to say, back it down on the Roush Fenway praise, because I wrote a column praising where they're at right now. They won the pole, and you don't fluke into poles at Daytona and Talladega. That is a testament to engineering and hard work on aero and R&D. But I think those 2 winners specifically stand out. And then, if you can pepper in some Hendrick winners here and there, your Ganassis with Larson, of course, leading the standings. You put all that together, and you just have a field right now that feels 15 to 20 deep. And if you think about that, say it out loud. You go watch a NASCAR race, you go to a NASCAR race, and you see a field where the potential winners are possibly 15 to 20 deep. That's NASCAR's dream, and the on-track product is good too. So, 2 thumbs up for me on the Cup side.
Yeah, Sherwin, I mean, I've had my Talladega boycott for quite a while. It's been years, maybe half a decade, and I ended up watching this one. So the boycott ended, and what do I see in the last restart is Casey Kane up in like 3rd place, and I'm going, holy crap, I might see something happen here. I can't believe it. So, but I mean, I don't know. Me and you have beaten that horse to death.
We do, and I'm not going to beat it anymore.
Yeah.
I will say 2 things. One of the things that I thought was a major change to make this a better race was we did not see a middle of the race where we ran 60 to 70 laps with every car lined up on the top line, single file like a train.
Mm-hmm.
We did not see that at this race.
I think stage racing helps that too.
It probably does.
Yep.
I'm definitely willing to concede that it does. The other thing is, I'll piggyback what you said as fans. We can't leave that out. I gave an ultimatum that I was not going to wear my number 5 Casey Kane hat again until he got a top 5. And so I'm living up to my word. I'm wearing it tonight.
Number 5 Casey
so
Kane.
We'll take it
hat.
We'll take it with a grain of salt from here, but I thought we saw a better Talladega than we've seen in a little while.
I agree.
And there's no reason to beat the dead horse about the reasons why we have misgivings about the racetrack.
Sure. And what a great story for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I thought that was really cool. I every time I see somebody new win, it's a cool deal for me.
Yeah. Well, and he got to make out with Danica in Victory Lane. That's pretty good.
That too.
I guess he gets to do that anyway. But it's not in Victory Lane though, typically.
Oh, Weaver.
Sorry.
Well, I guess when you're Ricky Stenhouse, if you've got Danica Patrick, anywhere can be Victory Lane, right?
That's a really good point. I want to echo your sentiments without being a fool over here. I think Ricky winning is cool. I really want there to be more, even though I've picked on Roush quite a bit over the years. I want to see him win more.
To me, what's cool about this, and I felt the same way with Larson's victory earlier too. I know it wasn't Larson's first; it was his second. But to me, having all these different winners, it's a reminder just how many interesting personalities we still have in the sport. I mean, look, we all appreciate, Brad Keselowski for how candid and honest he is, Joey Logano for how just emotional he can be, joyous, how confident he can be. I mean, he's a very polarizing personality, but he's very sincere, and I love Joey's sincerity. We all know what a proven commodity that Jimmy Johnson is, that Dale Jr. could be if he can get to victory lane. The JGR guys, we know who they are. But seeing the likes of Ryan Newman and Richard Childress back in victory lane, back in the media center doing winners press conferences, and Kyle Larson with Chip Ganassi, and Ricky Stenhouse with Jack Roush and with Steve Newmark. These are personalities that we don't necessarily forget in NASCAR, but they're kind of on the periphery, and this is just a good reminder that the personalities we have in NASCAR are good. And look, we talk about how the sky is falling, Dale Jr. is going to retire soon, but we've got personalities here that can be kind of the building blocks if we can just find that one transcendent superstar to rise out of the ashes of whatever Dale Jr. leaves behind.
Yeah, Sherwin, and you made me think of something that we've sort of made fun of Roush, if you will, or not. It's not that I'm rooting for it. Hell, I've got a Roush shirt, Roush hat on right now.
You're wearing a Bubba
Roush
Wallace
Fenway
hat.
Racing right there. But as much interest, I should say, as it gets to talk about what's Roush doing, what's going on, are they going to win? But I think piggybacking on what you were saying and what we were saying here, just having these extra or these different winners and stuff, and the parity in the sport is I don't know where I'm going with this. It's really exciting to see. I kind of feel like, all right, if Roush is back, then we've got like a series now,
Well, yeah, and if you look at what Mick's question was, he actually said 7 different race teams, and confused with the 8 different cars. But you think about it, there's only been one race team that's had more than one of their cars win. So if you look at where we are, we do have legit 7 different race teams that have won races.
That's bigger than 8 different drivers.
And
JGR
isn't one of them.
And so I wrote that down when Matt said it, and I wrote down fact that can't be a fact. JGR has not won yet this season, and there's been 8 different drivers and 7 different teams that have won, and JGR isn't one of them. Holy crap. Weaver, what's the story?
I think they're close. This is just one of those things that happen from time to time. I don't think anything is wrong with JGR. I don't think the sky has fallen. But NASCAR is very much like all motorsports, a very cyclical deal where if you hit on an advantage, you find something, either one of 2 things are going to happen. One, NASCAR is going to take it away from you and bring you back closer to the field, or what I believe happened this time, teams study what you're doing, they learn what you did, or they find something else that kind of bridges the gap. And I think that some of the other teams have just bridged the gap. And I think what you're seeing in the first half of 2017 is this kind of sweet spot where, the means regress, and that right now everyone's on the same level playing field. Now, some teams are going up, some teams are going down, and eventually we're going to kind of teeter-totter back towards where we were maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think NASCAR changing the rules constantly over the past couple of years probably helps with that, because it's a constantly moving goalpost. And I know that's frustrating because that's expensive for teams, but it's a balance that has to be struck between making sure that one team can't run away with a consistent rules package over the course of 3 or 4 years like you have in F1, while also trying to cut costs and make sure that teams don't run out of business. And I think right now, as far as finding those cost-cutting measures that also allow multiple teams to compete, we give NASCAR a lot of hell in the media center, but I think that's one thing they really do well right now on the Cup side is leveling those different demands from fans and the owners, and right now the product is reflective of that, in my opinion.
So speaking of the product, we've got a question. Joe at JoJo _6040. speaking of the product and the different products you've seen, Weaver, what's the best race you've attended so far in 2017? We've had 10 of them. What's the best one that you feel like you've seen, the best product from your eyes?
Oh man, that's tough because the thing is, for me, I've spent time in a lot of different kind of racing series and at a bunch of different kind of race tracks.
That's a good point because they didn't say NASCAR and they didn't say Cup.
No, I was hoping he would open this up to other series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, the one race that really stands out to me, and it was a good race. I don't know if it was a great race, but I'm kind of blinded by the overall event. I went to my first ever Long Beach Grand Prix this year, and I thought the actual race was really good because I'm a fan of IndyCar street races anyway, and there were kind of multiple tire strategies that kind of had to play themselves out. But I might be influenced a good bit by the atmosphere of Long Beach just because I left that event saying this is very much comparable to the Daytona 500 and the Indianapolis 500. This is the Indy 500 of street course races in California, and it's just massive. We're talking about tens to hundreds, thousands of people in this area, and I thought the race was good too. I've been to a couple of really good super late model races this year. Speed Fest in Cordele, Georgia stands out. But now the more that I think about it, I think the Cup race at Bristol a couple of weeks ago was probably the best race I've seen, the actual on-track race. I love that race at Bristol. It raced like a dirt track, the way that the VHT kind of went in and out of favor, how the surface, the preferred surface jumped from the top to the bottom. I thought that entire race was just awesome. And we've had a lot of good races this year across all of motorsports. So, yeah, I think Bristol stands out above the rest.
Matt Weaver just sticking a finger and salt in that wound for us.
It's all good.
No problems there. Yeah.
Hey, at least we made it home for most of it.
We did. Yeah. We made it. We made it home for most of it. I had to dry out our PTM lawn that we bring.
Completely drenched.
Yeah. Good on Lowe's, by the way. Shout out to Lowe's for making a really good, or whoever they contracted out to, bringing on a really good AstroTurf.
Oh, I'm sure it's Mohawk Industries up there in Dalton.
Well, good. Yeah, Dalton, Georgia. All right. Shout out to the state of Georgia here.
Yeah.
For making a good lawn that that thing, y'all, was underwater, and mud and everything. I dried it out completely, and it had dirt on it. Then I vacuumed the lawn, and all the dirt came up. It's beautiful. It's ready for the next. I put it on Twitter. I said it's ready for the next rain out.
The next rain out.
Lord knows we bring the rain like Matt Weaver brings the rain.
Good transition. I was going to say that Blame Weaver might have to come right over to Blame PTM.
No
now.
kidding, Weaver. Are you ready to hand off the reins?
Yeah, pretty much. Because the reason why I didn't see you guys that weekend is I saw the forecast, and I told myself on Friday. I said. I woke up on Friday, saw the rain. I said, I'm not going to the track till Monday. I knew. And lo and behold, I did not go to the track until Monday because there was just no way they were getting anything in. And I missed out on all the flood fun, as it were. But, yeah, Blame Weaver has pretty much been transitioned to Blame PETM, so I feel like I can give up the reins on that one.
No kidding. Well, I know Julie Bosley's actually watching live right now, so I don't know if she was the other day, but once again, shout out to Julie and her husband Mike for taking us in.
They gave us about 6 hours of reprieve from being in the elements.
It's what it was. I don't know if they felt sorry for us or if they actually enjoyed our company. I'm not sure which one, but either way, we very much appreciate the hospitality and all the shots that were.
There was a lot of shots.
There was a lot of shots. I don't know what to say. It was raining and there wasn't any racing.
Mike drank the hell out of some beer.
Mike was slamming some beers. He was a man. Weaver, so this is called, I think Sherman called it the social media spiral. So this one's interesting to me. Fans, everybody's noticed your willingness to kind of speak your mind verbally, pen to paper, etc., social media accounts. Frank Vlad asks us, now you don't have to be specific with anybody here, but have you either been blocked or otherwise cold-shouldered by any significant NASCAR competitors or media? Yes or no, or if you have any stories or details, that would be interesting.
Well, let me see. Look, I'll preface this by saying there's a price that you sometimes have to pay for being willing to speak your mind. Mm-hmm. And to me, I don't I'm not candid just because I'm trying to be showy or I'm trying to portray myself as some kind of like verbal badass that I'm not. To me, this is kind of very much a trait that I picked up from my dad and my grandpa, who are both, you know, racing guys. I'm here in racing because of them, and they were always just very much straight shooters. I remember my papa saying once that the thing that he expects out of people above anything else is that he wants to know where he stands, and he wants consistency every time someone walks in through the door. And I think that's kind of rubbed off on me. Is like when I walk in the door, whether it's the media center, a garage, a pit area, I want people to know where I stand on certain things. I want them to know how I feel. I want to get that back in return, even if it's not necessarily, you know, politically correct, or if it's, you know, pleasant or even, you know, welcoming. And I think that's very much why I act the way that I do. But I think there's a certain appreciation for that kind of candor too. And when it comes specifically to racing, by and large, most people in the garage really, really appreciate it because one, I bring it, and that's just the reality, you know. I really enjoy talking about racing. That's why I love being on y'all's show, because this is the water cooler talk. And to me, I've always kind of seen, I've told you all this too, that I see this as kind of like what you would do when you're going dirt track racing as a kid, or when I was going dirt track racing as a kid. You go to the racetrack and you guys would battle it out, and y'all all end up at the same Waffle House together, and then, you know, you talk about racing. Same thing here. We watch the racing on TV, we watch the racing in person, then we hop on PETM, and we water cooler talk about it. And we're really honest about it. Sometimes we're drinking beers, we're just having a good time. So that's kind of my perspective. Most people in the garage appreciate that because they're racers too. And I think if you come from a racing family or racing background, you're from that same ilk where, you know, you go to the races and then you talk about it and you're just brutally honest. And so I think most people in the garage are kind of cool with that. The media, you know, that can be fun because, look, I'm not picking on no one. I'm not talking about nobody. But overall, the media center as a whole, it can be kind of a political landmine that you have to walk across, because the thing is, you can be super honest and super sincere, and you think you're doing right by everybody because you're just speaking your mind, and you want to be honest with people, and that's going to rub people the wrong way. And then you could try to play it politically correct, or you can try to, like, as Jeff Gluck has said on many occasions, it's like Survivor, and that you try to, you know, make sure that you're saying the right things to everyone, and people smell insincerity, and then they get mad at you because they think that you're fake. So no matter what you do, you're going to probably, you know, rub someone the wrong way. And when you're really, really honest and you really just want to speak your mind, that's not necessarily going to go over well with everybody. Fans too, you know. There are certain fans who appreciate the honesty, that they appreciate the candor, and there's some who think that it's show-offy, or they think that, you know, you're trying to be braggadocious, and that bums me out a little bit, because to me, I can't say it enough, I really just enjoy having honest, really blunt conversations about racing, because that's what I've done my entire life. You know, some people really enjoy it, some don't, and that's kind of the crux of the story.
Great answer. There's so much meat to that. What was it, braggadocious? I think that's the word of the day, the $5 PETM word of the day.
That was a good one. There was a couple other good ones in there, too. Yeah, you broke out your lexicon today, which is good, because sometimes
lexicon, that might be like the $4 word of the day.
Reminded, that just sometimes they pop in there, sometimes they don't.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think the feeling behind the question is important, because it's obvious after your quite long-winded and very much welcomed answer to that question is that passion should be unwavering, and it shouldn't
be respected,
and it shouldn't have faces.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
totally agree.
I think we get ourselves in trouble at times, but you know, as long as you're consistent in what you are, it doesn't matter whether your bell curve is very wide and shallow or very narrow and tall. If people know where you operate, then they understand your perspective, and I think that's important.
There it is. Let's all hug it
yeah,
out.
In fact,
and we're gassing it up here in a moment.
Let me add an extra answer to my answer. There's been a shift in the overall NASCAR sanctioning body reception to this kind of storytelling and this kind of dialogue too. There have been times over the past couple of years where, NASCAR kind of had a reputation, the sanctioning body, for being a little sensitive to criticism or sensitive to opinions that were not necessarily the company line. And, they took some columns or some tweets from a bunch of people personally, and I don't blame them because, if you think about it, anytime that I write a column, as I sometimes do, that criticizes the sanctioning body, a direction or a decision, that's criticizing someone's life work. You try not to make it personal because it's business, but at the end of the day, it's a criticism of something that someone has invested their life, their hours, their time into. And sometimes it's probably too easy to take offense to it, and I probably would too if somebody picked apart one of my columns, as fans sometimes do, or other media, as Jenna Fryer can attest to for what she wrote about the Indianapolis 500 and Fernando Alonso. That column got tore apart, and so she took it personally a little bit. But there's been a shift in NASCAR circles that I've had NASCAR people tell me this year. Their plan is they're not going to be as easily offended by contrarian opinions, because at the end of the day, if they see passion from journalists, from columnists, from media people, as long as they're excited about racing and they just want to contribute in some way, add their voice to the national conversation, even if you don't always agree, that's a positive because you're exchanging ideas. And I really want to credit, some of the decision makers right now at NASCAR and their integrated marketing communications office, because they're a lot more receptive to just different ideas and having conversations, because they recognize that it's hard to be in the sport as a driver, an engineer, media, whatever. And if you're still here and trying to contribute, it's because you're passionate about it. And I think they are a lot more welcoming in 2017 than they even were in 16 or 15.
Amen.
Yeah, that's good to hear too. With the other evolutions that are going on with the sport, with the rule changes and whatnot, and the evolutions that they're having, just with the interacting with the media and stuff. I think that's really cool.
I think our ability to have a show like this and get to speak with someone like Weaver, now that you're where you're at, get to speak to several different drivers that compete at the national level. I think that validates very much what you just said, Matt. I think they're figuring out that, look, we're here because we're passionate. If I say something ishy about the decision you've made, it's because I'm a passionate fan and I don't like it. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop watching.
We always say it on the show. We want to make you laugh. We want to have you learn something. And I think especially with a lot of the columnists and media folks, maybe the laugh part isn't there, but I always try to learn something. Even if I totally disagree with the whole thing, if I learn something new, I'm not tweeting back at them immediately with cross-eyed, "You're totally wrong. The entire point of this whole thing is incorrect. It's nothing's there." Like, maybe you made me think. So, that's what I'm in for. Anyway,
that's fair.
I've already played the gassing it up sound, so
we're gassing it up.
Yep.
Going to Kansas.
We talked about it. Yeah. We're going to Kansas. Night racing.
There's no place like Kansas.
There's no place like home, buddy. Night racing in Kansas. What can we look forward to, Weaver?
Well, this track is starting to transition a little bit. The track was repaved a couple of years ago, and it's starting to gain some character. It's still not where we want it to be. I'm not the biggest fan of the racing that Kansas provides right now, and probably won't be until that track comes in a little bit more, but it's starting to. And so it's really hard for me to kind of predict what you're going to look at, because the dynamics are changing. The track is starting to age. This new package is starting to evolve. We're taking more and more downforce off. I was on a different radio show this morning, and the one thing that I do think is the constant is that Penske has always been good here. There's been some fuel mileage races that they've won here with Keselowski and Logano. They've got good speed here, and right now I think the Team Penske are the cars to beat. Now, granted, both of those cars are in trouble with NASCAR for some inspection issues, and maybe you could draw a correlation between their speed and them getting in trouble, but I still think they're the standard bearer right now. Ford is kind of at the top of the sport again, and Team Penske is leading the charge. And I think that some combination of Keselowski or Logano will be the drivers to beat. But I really think that you could see Ryan Blaney lead a bunch of laps and look like the guy that could possibly win his first race. I don't think he will, but don't be surprised if he's right there in the top 5 in the mix too.
Stole my thunder. That's all good.
Stole his thunder. Sherwin,
No, it validated. It validated what I was fixing to say. So I'm glad.
We'll say it anyway. Make it
I was
happen.
going to say, I mean, the one guy that's got the same cars that those two guys have is not in trouble right now.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
So
let's bring it over to the picks then. See what we're going to do. Whoa, there he is. So I'm not sure, Sherwin. I picked Dale Jr., and I was disappointed but not surprised. How about that with Junior's performance at Dega?
Did he get about a 20th?
Yeah.
He got mired back.
He had that deal.
Yeah, he had the deal.
He had that deal. So, who'd you pick last week? Because I had to ask you, right?
I picked Brad.
You picked Brad. Where'd Brad go?
I think he finised worse than Junior after leading like half the race.
So you're going to let me pick first? Actually, we have a guest on. Matt, who are you picking for the Kansas race?
Again, I sat here and talked about the Penske cars. The challenge is like picking one. It's funny. I think NASCAR kind of goes full circle sometimes in that you kind of see this story evolve from the beginning of the week and it spills over into the race weekend. I think you're going to see Keselowski, who lost like his 17th appeal from Phoenix, or so it feels like anyway.
Right.
He lost the appeal. I think he's going to go in and wash the negativity away, and he's going to win Kansas and kind of put that behind him.
So, Sherwin, when I'm looking this up and thinking about what's going on, and even almost a little bit affected, I think Jeffrey Whitler even said it in here that this guy doesn't even have a win yet this season, and he's not even JGR. Kevin Harvick, the most recent winner, 2-time winner here at Kansas, and I think he's up.
Yeah, I wish I had studied the weather patterns a little bit because I think what we've seen is when it's cold in Kansas, we see a very different race than when it's warm, which is the same as everywhere we go. So that's no breaking news.
True. But I mean, Daytona on July 4th is going to be hot.
It's going to be hot. Yeah. But Daytona's different.
Right.
We'll take those out of play a little bit. But like these tracks like this that aren't super banked, but they're sweeping and they're long and they're fast. They tend to change. 20 degrees matters a boatload. So I guess what I'm going to say is I'm going to hope for multiple grooves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hope for a nighttime temperature at least 65 or higher, hopefully north of 70. And I'm going to pick Kyle Larson to get his second win of the season.
Ooh, very nice. Very interesting, too. I'm seeing a couple notes from the folks on the live YouTube channel here. I see Danica from Ashley Stang. I love it. And how about this? Clint Boyer sticking with the company cars there.
I am ready to pick him.
I think
he's been really fast.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, he has been a dark horse. It's not really a dark horse. If you're continuing to pile up top fives, are you really a dark horse anymore? Weaver, what's the story on Boyer?
No, I think they're close to winning. I don't think they're going to win for the next several races, but I think they're close.
Fair.
Totally.
Completely fair.
Sherwin, you've got a little shout-out here to give.
I do have a shout-out. This one's heartfelt.
Okay. I don't know if we.
Yeah, no, not yet. No, we don't have to go hats off just yet. So let me scroll up to make sure I get it all right. So this is from.
I think. By the way, Weaver's getting his frappuccino and brownie right now.
I think so. I think he's in the store.
I sure am.
Okay, so we're gonna do. I'm gonna do about a minute and a half on this.
Go for it.
Number one underdog fan. That's at all caps NASCAR _ underdog.
Okay.
Has a mission to get his terminally ill father, lung cancer sucks, to a race. His father got him into racing 25 years ago. They've never been to a race together.
Oh, man.
There is a fundulation situation they're trying to generate some attention from the NASCAR community. That's what we do in NASCAR is we help our friends.
Yep.
PTM Podcast has kicked a nugget over there. We'd love for y'all to do the same. They have a GoFundMe campaign. Again, that's at NASCAR _underdog. All of its caps. I will be retweeting their GoFundMe link because it's too long to try to say. But would love to see a feel-good story for them to get to a racetrack. They're in Pennsylvania, so obviously Pocono and Dover make the most sense for them to try to get to. Father is fairly well confined transportation-wise. He needs a lot of help.
Okay.
But I'd love to see them get to a race.
Another great feel-good story. And, really cool. Y'all go check that out. Sherwin will retweet out everything and all that. That brings us to Strange with Stang.
Strange with
Y'all,
Stang.
all right, I'm going to say this. If you're live and the kids are around, go ahead and
we're going to be crossing some boundaries a little bit, just a little bit.
Is not, here at PTM, we try to keep it fairly PG. It's going to get PG-17.
It's 17, right? We're going to get right up to the bump
in a moment.
line.
So we'll
they
give you a moment.
I think they call it 14 mature on FX after 10 o'clock now.
Yeah, something like that. But
cuss word might slide out.
14's a stretch here. Maybe I'll play the Jeopardy song here for a second. Get them to bed or whatever. And so here's the deal.
Usher the kids out of the room.
And we're going to try to make this as safe for work and kids as possible. But I'm not reading this first part.
I will. I'll read it. All right.
Wait. Okay, go ahead.
I'll keep it chill. It's all good. So Ashley comes up with this question for us based on a backstory. And I don't know if she overheard somebody, if she just made this up in her head, or she was at the office and one of the other women who's a parent at the office said this aloud at the water cooler to bring back that reference. But let's just say a mother found the family dog playing with a device.
Okay.
A device that could... The mother knows isn't hers, so it could only belong to the teenage daughter. And so she goes up and has the maybe want to hide this better next time speech with the daughter.
Yep. Okay.
So the lead-in, that's the lead-in story to the question.
There's the lead-in.
What is the most embarrassing thing your parents or significant other has ever accidentally found of yours?
So and go ahead.
And did you own up to it being yours? Did you just blatantly lie about what it was, or did you blame it on a friend for having left it over at a spend-the-night party?
Yeah. So I've got. Here's what I've got. Now, mine's not as good as that story, but hopefully we can go somewhere with this. Here's what happened.
Here's what happened.
This is like 2 years ago.
Right. You were like 33.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So you can tell Siri. I don't know if you know. If for those of you iPhone owners out there, you can tell Siri. You can tell it. And I'll do it right now. Call me Bill, and she will say, "Let's see."
Oh, I know where this is going.
Oh yeah. Here. Let's see. Call me Bill.
You would like me to call you Bilal?
Below.
Sure.
Close enough.
Whatever. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Shut up.
Anyway, so you can tell her to call you whatever you want to call you, right? And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. So I made up something to call it. I was like, oh, I'll just do this. This will be funny. So fast forward. This had to be 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, right? My parents are in town. They're over at my house. And my mom ends up with my phone because she needs to look up something. I'm like, hey, you can just look it up on my phone. She says, okay. And for whatever reason, I don't know what happened, she mashed the button that lets you talk to Siri, right? And she starts talking. She's like, I don't know what happened. This thing's beeping at me or something. And y'all, my mother is, the Southern lady. I love her to death and everything. And so it's a type of mother you do not want anything.
Love you, Darlene.
Yes, you don't want anything. You never want her to know that like you ever even saw or heard any cuss word in your life. she mashes the button. She says something. She's like, I don't know what this thing's doing. It's trying to tell me something. And suddenly Siri goes, I'm sorry, Long Dong Silver. I don't know what you mean. Now, props to
Long Duck Dong from 16
Long
Candles.
Dong Silver. And I go, and so to Ashley's point, she says, did you own it up? Did you blame it on a friend? What was your reaction? I just kind of went, well, there's that. And she laughed her butt off, and props to Mama. And I'll show y'all in my phone. I got Mama and Daddy in my phone. That's what I call them to this day. And Mama, she just laughed her butt off, and she couldn't stop laughing. She never brought it up with me or anything. She just laughed and laughed and laughed. And I'm like, I don't know what to do now. So there's the one thing that my mama found that I was probably the most embarrassed about, and I was like 33 years old. Sherwin?
We were talking about this earlier, and I don't know that I have that embarrassing moment, like way as an adult.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember being home as either a freshman or a sophomore in college, and so my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, had ruled the roost at that point.
Yeah.
And so I was in the bathroom. The bathroom we used to share when we were in high school, or when I was still there. And she's left a note to one of her friends. And I said, well, reckon I'm reading this because I'm an a-hole.
Duh. I mean, come on. Duh.
And there was an entire paragraph about an experience she had
Oh, Lord.
where my bedroom door had not gotten closed.
Oh, Lord.
And the high school, I guess at that point, freshman and college girlfriend and I were having some quality time. and I didn't realize that it ever happened. So it was very funny to read about. Funny and then also embarrassing because my sister and I didn't have a great relationship then. So I was like, oh, crap. Did I not shut the door? Like, come on, man. So that's the closest, maybe.
That's gold. Weaver, you got anything for us, man?
I feel like you guys were so much more prepared than I was because I'm sitting here trying to think of things and it's funny here that I now talk about how I'm like this really polarizing, badass that always has like crazy stories and something wacky that's happened. I was such a tame, boring teenager. And, the closest thing that I can think of that immediately comes to mind, and I can't believe I'm talking about this on an air. This is what this show does to me. I might as well be drinking something spiked that's not a coffee drink because I'm talking about this. But,
this is the brownie talking, man.
Yeah.
My parents, yes, this cosmic brownie. I'm out in La La Land. It's not that they discovered something. I discovered something of theirs, of my parents. And that when I was a kid, I would find these magazines, and forget the magazines for a second, but they had like this big like coffee table sized book that was like the Kama Sutra on steroids. The Kama Sutra doesn't have this many positions. And I was
Kama
so
Sutra written by
fascinated.
Larry Flint.
I was so fascinated by this book as like a 14-year-old. I'm like, you can do that? and the book went missing because I was really fascinated by this damn book. And there was a time where my parents had gone through my room because they're trying to look for something of theirs, and I know they discovered the book because the book went missing from my room and was back in their room, and it's only because they found it. And we never talked about it. It never came up. I am 29 years old, and this has never been broached in a conversation between me and my parents. I have no idea who found this Kama Sutra book.
They needed to study for class, and you had the book.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, man.
It's hilarious. Why not be an adult every now and again and talk about stuff?
Right.
It's funny.
Right.
Everybody in the live feed, by the way, is laughing their butts off.
I love it. I love it. Weaver, on that bombshell, why don't you close us out? Tell us what's going on.
Not
where
in
we
that
can
way.
find
Let's
you,
talk about
Italy,
social
what's
media.
happening. Yeah. Give us the last word here, buddy.
Yeah, the last word is I'm about to drive through a little dead zone here, so I'll say this, and then I'll hop off the line with you guys. But Yeah, some exciting things coming up. Driving down to Indianapolis for my 6th Indianapolis 500, which is just a very cool experience.
Awesome.
Can't thank all the people who have read my stuff for years, my bosses for letting me do this, and you guys for having me on to talk about it. This is way cool. I can't wait for that. Fernando Alonso is going to run the 500. Very cool experience. So really, that's the main thing that I'm excited for. Looking forward to this first international trip. You guys can follow along on Auto Week at Matt Weaver AW. I know you guys know who I am anyway. But more than anything else, I say this every time I'm on the air with y'all, but I appreciate y'all so much. You guys get out the word about things that I'm doing, and the conversation is good. You guys aren't afraid to challenge me on certain things that I say that y'all don't necessarily agree with, but we can talk about it. We can have fun. It's the water cooler stuff, and you guys are truly, and everyone listening too, because we're all friends. Y'all are my favorite people to talk racing with, and I think this sport would be so much better if all of Racing Nation, NASCAR Nation, was the PETM posse.
Oh, man.
Thank
Hats
you.
off. Drinks up. Woo! Let's do this. Y'all know where to find us. Y'all know where to find him. He just said it. Matt Weaver, y'all. Always great to have him on. Don't forget, go online, subscribe, rate, etc. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at PETM Podcast. Y'all go find us. Patreon.com/PETM. What's up, Sherwin?
Pregame Engineer at Pregame ENG.
And follow me, Tailgate Mayor, at Tailgate Mayor. We're going to talk to y'all next week on PETM 100.
Oh, and we're all over that IG, too. Same stuff over there.
Here we go. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Thumbs up. Thanks a lot, Matt. We appreciate you, bro.
Matt, you still there?
He must have known he was for real fixing to go.
He's gone. Oh, yeah, he's gone. He's gone. He got him his brownie. I just noted. I just looked into that.
That was funny as hell when he was in the store. Or drive-through maybe or something. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever
that
it was.
awesome.
He was getting his brownie. He's getting his thing.
Like,
his story.
Hey, a-hole, we know what you're doing.
I love that the PTM podcast brings that out in people. And he was like, I don't know why I'm telling this story, but I'm going to go ahead and tell it. We got this Karma Sutra book.
That was awesome.
Oh, PTM Posse, y'all are the best.
Hey, I didn't know what story I was going to tell until 10 seconds before I decided to tell it.
It was great. The delivery was perfect. Everything was awesome. Y'all, you're the best. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. The glasses are up. I'm going to, tink right against the camera there. Thank you for joining.
This is the best koozie ever made.
So much fun. We'll talk to y'all next week. Y'all, Tommy Joe Martin's PETM 100. Y'all get your PETM 100 whatever questions in and stuff. I mean, get excited about this thing.
For sure, get your shit in one pile.
100.
Tommy's going to be bringing the thunder next week.
Yes, he is. I might get accidentally just wasted before. Well, I don't want to do that, though.
No, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We'll figure out which day, and we'll get hammered.
Yeah. We'll let y'all know. Thank you so much for joining.
Early.
We will see y'all next week on PETM 100. How about Matt Weaver? Always a classic.
Glasses up to
Love
Matt
this
Weaver
guy.
and ski you.
See y'all later.